Joco Community Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. For Western New York State, the journey down the road to recovery is well underway. This morning, the region, including the city of Buffalo, is devastated by the winter storm. It's blamed for at least 40 deaths in Western New York, additional fatalities elsewhere. With the streets now cleared of snow, downtown Buffalo is reopening, and everyday services that we might take for granted, like trash collection, are resuming. 41 Southwest Airlines flight cancellations listed this morning by FlightAware.com. It is a big comeback for the beleaguered carrier, which suffered a major meltdown during the winter storm. In the midst of the mayhem, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg faces bipartisan criticism. He's accused of ignoring warnings of a pending holiday travel crisis. Prior to his arrest on fraud allegations, he had some friends in very high places.
Accused cryptocurrency fraudster and Democratic donor Sam Bankman-Fried met with 4 Biden officials this year before the collapse of his company, FTX. According to Bloomberg, Fried held talks with senior White House advisor Steve Ricchetti on September 8th and April 22nd and May 12th, with another top aide in attendance. Fried's brother Gabriel had a solo meeting with White House officials on May 13th. Fried was the Democratic Party's second largest donor in the 2022 election cycle. He'll be arraigned in a Manhattan court on January 3rd, and if convicted on all charges, face 115 years in prison. Tasha Stevens reporting.
2 allies, Russia's Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping, reaffirming their alliance while vowing to strengthen the ties between their regimes. The two held a video conference earlier today as Putin's war in Ukraine grinds on. Wall Street, the Dow futures are down 158 points. NASDAQ futures off 120. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
Out-of-date carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleveland, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleveland, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Accelerated Graphics and Signs, 101 East Renfro, Sweet C in Burleson, Texas, can handle all of your graphic needs. Need a banner or promotional products for your business? They got you covered. T-shirts and caps for your group. All you need to figure out is if you want them screen printed or embroidered. How about some slick graphics on that hot ride to make you stand out from the crowd? Accelerated Graphics and Signs can handle anything you throw at them. Located at 101 East Renfro Street, Sweet C in Burleson, Texas, go in and see them. Call them at 817-991-0523 or reach them on the web at www.acceleratedgraphics.net. They are loud and proud and want to serve you. Accelerated Graphics.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angelo Rocha. My name is Angelo Rocha. I am your host of Vet for Vets. Do you hear that feedback?
I can.
Okay, great. Okay.
I can hear myself.
Today I have with me Troy Cornett, a
going
Johnson
on right
County veteran. Troy, how are you?
I am doing fantastic.
Hold
today.
on 1 second, folks.
You're good. Hey, we're going to shoot the shit. We're going to talk about your life before,
I'm not sure what
during, and after the military. Hopefully there's some really good stuff you can tell us today.
Sounds fantastic.
So that way the people of Burleson and people of Godly and the people all around Johnson County can kind of know who you are as a person. So that way, maybe if they see you at the store, or if they see you at the car dealership, or they see you at the movie theater, they'd be like, hey, that's Troy. That's the guy, who went to Kosovo, which we're going to talk about later.
Excellent.
So Troy, where'd you grow up?
I kind of grew up everywhere. I grew up, I'm born in Indiana.
Indiana.
Yeah, so we were there for 6 months, if I recall, and then from what my mom told me, we moved to Texas, then to California, where my brother and sister were born. Then we moved to New Jersey. From there, I only remember that because I remember doing preschool there. We then went to Nigeria.
Nigeria?
Yes, Port Harcourt, right outside of Port Harcourt. I did first grade there, kindergarten and first
This
grade.
is one of my old guests, in case you're wondering.
We lived in. We didn't actually live in the city. My dad wasn't military.
Hopefully Tiffany will be able to take care of this. I'm not sure how to take care of it. I got you. So yeah, you want to make sure that they're clear, because a lot of people think your dad is a military guy and you're a military brat.
Yeah, no, I was fortunate enough to do a lot of traveling while I was growing up, going to different places. So Nigeria, we lived in 2 different camps. The first one, I believe, was a French camp. The French were there before we were. We kind of went into their camp, had a little entertainment area with a pool and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So we could do some fun stuff. And then they were building the other camp for us. And right about the time we went in first grade is when we had that camp. And it also had like a little entertainment area with a pool. And so this was probably, 83, 84. It's the oil company, so a lot of the women were more just housewives. The guys worked, so the women, the moms, basically were bored. So they would come up with like things for us to do as kids, plays, square dancing, all that embarrassing stuff that we tried to do anything to get out of, right?
Nice.
And, but that was their kind of thing. The other thing I want to mention about this pool, they had a bar that went across the pool kind of lengthwise.
Yeah.
It was a metal bar painted white, and we would splash water on it and slide across it or do, chicken fights on it.
Yeah.
And that was probably the funnest thing about the pool. And I remember when we came back to the States, we went to a neighborhood that had a community pool. And my first question was, where's the pole? How come there's no pole going across it for us to play on? And didn't realize what a liability that was. But I'm assuming if you live in Nigeria, you don't really have that liability, because I don't think they really care about that over there.
Nice. Did you learn any Nigerian while you were there?
No, I didn't. We didn't really have it. It was all American schools. I guess some of the wives that were teachers, took up the job of teaching and that kind of thing. But after we did Nigeria, I did 2nd and 3rd grade in Chile.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my show. We apologize about that. It's a mistake. I guess last week it was Christmas. And I guess what happened was it was scheduled for me to not be on this week. It was a simple mistake. But anyway, welcome to my show. My show is Vet for Vets. I am here today with my guest, Larry Rasberry. That's such a good name. I love it. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to mention that if you're a veteran in crisis or you're a veteran with the issues that's going on, please call 988, okay? That's 988. That's it for if you're a veteran and you're going through some turmoil. Larry, did you know about that?
Yes.
988? Good. Okay, so in case you're wondering, my guest is Larry Rasberry. He's a former staff sergeant. He's 6. He was a 31 Echo Field Radio Repairman. He is a Vietnam War veteran, and let's welcome him to our show.
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Okay, Larry, before we get started, I just want to mention, I want to send out my condolences, my prayers, and my thoughts to my friend, Brandy Myers, her mom, Sheila Myers, her son, Corbin Myers, and my daughter, Daniela Rocha. Sadly, he's my ex-father-in-law, but I've always looked up to him as like my dad, my local dad. I have one in New York and I have one here. And sadly, he passed away from cancer today. And it was a complete shock because it came out of nowhere with an aggressive form of cancer. And I am absolutely praying for them today. So anyway, let's go on with our show. Okay. Larry, so it says here you were born on March 3rd, 1947.
That's correct.
Well, that's only a couple years ago.
Just a couple. Yeah, just a couple of years. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood back when you were born.
Well, I was born in a small town called Marmaduke, Arkansas. Population about 700. I was raised. My mom and dad were hardworking folks, and they taught me hardworking. The hardworking to be hardworking. Got my first job when I was 10 years old.
10 years old.
Delivered paper. They had the whole town, 54 customers.
Oh my gosh.
And then I never really went without a job from that point forward. But Dad was, he went to work for the Cotton Belt Railroad in 1949 as a telegrapher.
Wow.
Telegraph operator.
Telegraph.
Yeah.
Tell us that isn't a long time ago.
Oh, it was. It was, yeah. And he retired from Cotton Belt. He was a very civic-minded person. He did a lot of things for Marmaduke. He got in a couple of factories, and we're talking about a town under 1,000 people. He got in 3 factories.
Wow.
He got a new ball field. He got a housing project for low income. He did a lot of things for Marmaduke, and as a result, when he passed, they named a street after him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's a Larry Rasberry.
Have you ever
road.
been there?
Nice. That's my hometown. So, but anyway, and my mom was, she was at home. She was homemaker until I was about 13 years old. She picked cotton. She took the 1960 census for our Greene County. She learned taught herself to type, and she got a job as a circuit court clerk. She did that for 10 years, and then she was a deputy circuit court clerk. And then she was elected to circuit court clerk for another 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
So, the family's always tried to do good, I guess the best way I can say it.
Nice.
But anyway, our high school was a real small high school. We did only sport we had in town. Well, we actually had 2 sports in town. Basketball. You either played it or you watched it.
Oh, nice.
So I played.
Which one were you?
I was the watcher.
Oh, nice.
I actually kept the clock for
nice.
the basketball games my last 2 years in high school. But I did play a little bit of ball in a county league, baseball in a county league. But we started a tumbling team. One of the coaches there started a tumbling team, and a bunch of us that weren't playing basketball got on the tumbling team, and that's where I met my wife.
Oh, nice.
We were on the same tumbling team. We started dating, and I was dressed up as a clown at our tumbling show when I met her mom for the first time. So that was a good example. But
that's a good way to make a first impression.
Right, yes.
Did she actually say, "Who's this clown"?
Well, she kind of looked at me a little weird. But anyway, we dated all the way through the rest of high school, and I graduated and went to college for a year. And then I went to Michigan for the summer to work, and I said, "Come on up, let's get married." So she did, and I was 19 and she was 17.
Oh, nice.
And we had a ball.
She hasn't left your side yet, has she?
She has not. No.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
we take care of each other.
So how long have you been married now?
56 years.
56 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's about 46 more years than I am now.
Well,
I still have a long way to go.
But we have fun together. We're best friends, and we have a lot of, like I said, we have a lot of fun. We're going on a lot of cruises, and we do a lot of road trips.
Oh, nice.
And she told me,
what's your special thing? Whenever you go on a trip with your wife, what's the one special thing that you do all the time? Like me and my wife, we collect fridge magnets. What's your thing?
Banks.
Banks. You like to visit banks?
No, we collect banks.
Oh, cool. Nice. Collect banks.
Yeah. That's the way we get souvenirs is collect banks.
Oh,
we
nice.
got a lot of banks. And but we excuse me, she she told me the other day, she said, we're going to go until we can't go no more.
Nice.
And I said, you know what? That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
You know, but we've, of course, we slowed down a little bit. But, you know, it's just age catching up
Nice.
and a couple other things. But
Tell me if you know this date. Okay. July 28th, 1966. What day is that?
well, I better know that one. That was
You
the
better
day
know.
I got married.
That's my
yeah.
question. That's the day
Yeah.
he got married.
That was the day I got married.
What
Yeah.
you want to tell us about that? Like, how was the experience? Did you do a local judge? Did you actually have a big wedding? How was it?
Well, like I said, I was in Michigan and Flint, and she had a aunt in Pontiac, and her brother was in Pontiac. And so he brought her over on a Friday afternoon to meet me at the courthouse, and we were going to get our license.
Yeah.
And then we were going to, you know, basically elope.
Yeah.
Well, I have an aunt that lives there, and I was staying with her at the time, and she found out about it, and she says, you're not eloping. You're going to have the wedding at my house.
Good.
So we ended up having a real nice wedding at my aunt's house. And I think we had about 16, 17 people there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had rented a one bedroom apartment over a grocery store. So that was where we went for our honeymoon.
Yeah.
Because I was working, and we got married on a Thursday night, and I missed work Friday, but I went back to work Monday.
Yeah.
And anyway,
you
I
gotta
worked.
work. You gotta work. You gotta
Oh
support.
yeah, yeah. Well, I worked. I was in construction then, but I got the job at AC Spark Plug,
Nice.
and I worked there until I got drafted.
So you
and-
want to talk about that draft?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about your
It
draft.
took them almost a year to get me drafted.
Nice.
When I moved to Michigan, I asked them to move my draft board
Yeah.
to
For,
Michigan.
for the younger generation, what exactly? I know what it is. What is the draft? Please tell the audience.
The draft board is I guess it's a committee that determines whether or not you're eligible for the draft or not. You can be 1A, which means that you're on the top of the list, or you can be a 4F, which means you're disabled or something's wrong. And,
Yeah.
and you can. But anyway, I was 1A, but I was going to college when we first got married. So that put me off getting drafted for 6 or 8 months.
Yeah.
And then I had to drop I was taking German, and I couldn't handle it. So I had to drop the class. Well, they drafted me
Nice.
a week later.
Yeah.
And the day before I was supposed to go get my physical, the Detroit riots broke out, and they put off all the physicals. So about 3 months later, I get another notice. A week before I was supposed to take my physical, they ran out of money, and they called me and they wrote me and said, we can't give you a physical, we're out of money.
Yeah.
So about 3 months later, I got another letter, and they drafted me, and I went. That time I went, and 2 weeks later I was drafted, and I was in Michigan. So we moved. I wanted my wife to go back to Arkansas.
Yeah.
So we moved. I moved them all back. We all moved back down there. Me and her moved back down there, and I was drafted in December. In reception station, they give you these tests to see what you can.
Speaking to I can't hear. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
At the reception station, they give me these tests, and they said, "Do you rather be a radio operator or radio repairman?" I said, "Duh,
No.
ain't much. No. I'll take the repairman part."
What ultimately made you decide on the repairman, not the operator?
Well, I don't know if I said this, but when I was in high school, I became a ham radio operator.
Yes, we had one of our guests here that used to be.
Yes,
actually is still a ham radio operator.
Yeah, and I got my ham radio license, and I was strictly a code, CW, Morse code, and I did that for a year, and then I got my next step license. And although I could talk, I still stayed on code.
Yeah.
But I did that, and my license run out while I was in NOM. And I didn't, in 2014, I decided I was going to get them again. And I took the test and I got my license again. It's a different type of license than when it was in the 60s. But they give me this really weird call sign. And they had something called it was it's a license plate that you can get that
it had a weird name on it.
It had a weird name. Well, anyway, I applied for it and I got my old call sign back. So
good.
I'm now, I guess you can say I've been a ham for about 58 years now.
Is that what ultimately made you go to repairman, because of the fact that because
when I got my first license, I built all my equipment. I built my receiver. I built my transmitter.
You did everything from the ground up.
I built everything from the ground through Heath Kit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I built a lot of Heath Kits when I was in high school. And so I enjoyed that. I enjoyed doing it. And I thought, well, that might give me a step up when I get out of the service too. Yeah. So I did that.
And did it? Did it kind of give you a little leg up?
It did give me a foot in the door when I got out.
Nice.
I went to work as I got a job with a vending company, working on jukeboxes and pinball machines.
Oh, nice.
Video games, things like that. And that got me that job.
Yeah.
And it also got me the next job when I was working for a contract company that were contracted to a telephone company. And we installed telephone equipment in small town phone offices.
Yeah, get them going. Gotcha.
Yeah. Or we would add 100 lines.
Oh,
the CD grew, so we added 100 lines or something like that. But we had, we had a lot of good experiences, both in the service and out of the service. Of course, when I left for Vietnam, my wife was 7.5 months pregnant.
Yeah.
When I got out of AIT, I went to AIT in Georgia, Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Oh, nice.
And then I went to White Sands Missile Range.
Oh, been there
for 9. Oh, have you?
I have,
oh,
yeah.
Hey, 400 military and 10,000 civilians.
Yep.
And I worked with the civilians and loved it the whole time I was down there.
I love going there. That was a great experience.
Oh, it was great.
It's funny how it's a few decades apart, but at the same time, we've both had a great experience there.
Yeah.
And it's still active today. It's still good.
Oh, yeah.
It's still
Well,
good.
nothing like going to work and you get stopped because they're firing missiles. And they won't let you go down the highway because they're firing missiles.
It's true. That's exactly what they told us. You couldn't go past this point because they're doing jet flybys and dropping bombs. It's like, whoa.
Well, one of the most interesting things I did down there. One of the most interesting things I did down there was we built a emergency stop system. They had, you ever remember seeing movies with the big sled that's going down the railroad track?
The missile tests where they test how fast something goes. Yeah.
Well, I went all the way down the end of that, and there's a blockhouse there. And we went in, and they had these 4x4 boards there. There were plotting boards, and they would plot a missile going. This was 1969.
Yeah, before they have all the technology of today.
They were plotting these missiles on these plotting boards. Well, what we had built was these little boxes about this big that went on the side of that plotting board with a red button on top of it. And it had a control panel. And before we did this, they had to call somebody to do something. And it took them a while. If a missile got off range, it took them a while to kill it.
Oh my gosh.
Well, this one, they just hit that button and it blew up.
Good.
Yeah. So that was interesting. I enjoyed doing stuff like that. And anyway, Mary went to the doctor on Wednesday and found out she was pregnant. And Thursday morning, I went in and got orders for Vietnam.
Oh my gosh.
So I called Mom and Dad on Wednesday night. Hey, we're going to have a baby. You're going to be. And I called back the next day and said, hey, I'm going to Vietnam. But we had a, we made it home. I took her back home.
Yeah.
And we got her settled. She stayed with her parents for a while. And then, of course, I was in Nam 2 months when the baby was born.
Yeah.
And he was 7 months old when I went on R&R and saw him.
Yeah.
And then he was 9 months old when I come home.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was, but you know what, he got a lot of attention.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, he's the eldest. He's the oldest.
He is
one.
the oldest. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what his life is. Is he still around? Is he
He's still here? He lives about 5 or 6 miles over there.
Right.
On the other side of the freeway.
Well, what's his name and what does he do?
His name is Bruce.
Bruce Rasberry.
He's got a wonderful wife and he's got 4 wonderful kids. And he works for Benny Keith Foods.
Oh, wow.
I worked for Benny Keith. I retired from Benny Keith Foods in 2015. And he's been at Benny Keith Foods for about 22 years now. His wife works for Benny Keith Foods.
Oh, wow.
And so we got a Benny Keith Foods family. But anyway, and my youngest son lives in Saginaw. And they both have good jobs. They have good families.
Nice.
I've got 2 sons, 4 grandkids, and 4 great grandkids.
Oh my gosh! Any more on the way for you?
No,
just for now.
Not for now. Not that we know of.
Yeah.
Of course, the younger ones are growing up.
Yeah. Did any of your kids follow behind your footsteps and join the military as well?
Bruce was in the military for a little while, but he had to get out for some
medical.
Well, it wasn't medical. It was family reasons, and he got out. He was in for a while. He would have probably stayed in if it hadn't been for the little issues that he had. But he's got like I said, he's got a good life now, and they're big Ranger fans, and Mary and I are Maverick fans.
Oh, nice.
Coming from a basketball community, you grow up basketball. But we're big Maverick fans.
Nice.
And so it's been a good. We've really enjoyed Texas, although I graduated from. I went back to college in '75 and graduated in '79.
Oh my gosh, that was the year I was born, '79.
Really? I come up here on Super Bowl. We moved here on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
In 1979.
Yeah, you're not that old yet.
No,
you're not that old.
I used to think 50 was old. Nah. Then I thought 60 was old. Nah.
Yeah.
No, 70 ain't old either.
Do you feel like you've had a pretty good life so far?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, man.
Are you grateful for the life that you've had after Vietnam?
Yes. And we're going to talk about that. I
would love for you to talk to us on the show about your life in the military, serving for our country. Because that's the main reason for our show, is to discuss people like yourself, kind of know where you came from. Mm-hmm. So now people know you're from Kentucky. Did you know?
I'm not from Kentucky.
Sorry, Arkansas. We were just talking. No, Kentucky is where you actually went to basic. You went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, basic.
Yes.
I was going to say, from Arkansas, did you know that they invented the toothbrush in Arkansas?
Well, I heard that.
Yeah, because if it was invented anywhere else, it'd actually be called a teeth brush.
Teeth brush. Okay. Well,
I know you got one for me.
Do you know how many? Do you know how you get a full set of teeth in Arkansas?
How do you get a full set of teeth in Arkansas?
You line up 25 men in a row. 32. I'm sorry.
32
men in a row. Yeah.
It might be 25 men. Some of them have 2 teeth.
You know what? That a lot of people say that's a full set.
That is a full set. That's funny. So that's great. So you get married, you go to Vietnam. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Like, what are you thinking as soon as you get boots to the ground in Vietnam? In Saigon, by the way.
Well, I landed at Tan Son Nhut at night. And of course, there was stuff going off, And I thought, yep, I've got myself into a mess now. But I was fortunate. They stationed me in Saigon with MACV headquarters.
Yeah.
A little story about that. When I got orders for Vietnam,
yeah,
I tried to get them postponed.
Yeah.
and they wouldn't do it. First 3 people I talked to, no.
No, just reject it.
The 4th one I talked to said, Mr. Well, he didn't call him Mr. Rasberry. He said, Rasberry, I'm going to tell you the truth. I said, what's that? He said, I will delay you going to Vietnam till the day your baby's born. You will get to hold your baby, then you will go to the airport and go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Or you can go to Vietnam, because I want to tell you something. You got some of the best orders of anybody I've ever seen go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
You've already got orders. Most people don't. You already have orders. You know where you're going. Well, I didn't know where I was going, but you know what
you know where you're going to be.
Yeah.
I got you.
And so you knew what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, Larry, when we get back, we're going to talk to you a little bit more about your experiences in Vietnam.
Okay.
This is Vet for Vets. This is my guest here, Larry Rasberry. Thank you for listening, and please stay tuned for the second half.
If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
Out-of-date carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleveland, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleveland, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Hey, there's something you forgot to do. It sure is hot. Are you sweating like a dog? Wait, what? Dogs don't sweat. Oh no, you forgot to get your window tinted. Whether it's the kitchen window that sits in the sun for the hottest part of the day, or you just got new wheels, call Sharp Window Tinting in Burleson. 817-615-9379, or look them up on the web, sharpwindowtint.com.
Welcome back to Vet for Vets. Once again, that's Vet, me the veteran, for veterans. My show guest today is Larry Rasberry. He's a local Johnson County resident. And we're going to continue our little talk about your experience in Vietnam. I see you're standing up because these chairs can be very uncomfortable. Yeah. Well,
yeah. But I like to move too.
Nothing wrong with that. As long as you keep talking to the microphone, let people know who you are. Okay. Before we get started, Larry, I want to mention that Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneInJoco.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free. You hear that? It's actually free on all devices, free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store. Check out our lineup and more at jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more are brought to you by Patriot Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844-TEX-HAIL. That's 844-839-4245. Be sure to dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com. That's TheTiffie.com. No snaps, no straps, just sleeves. Get it today at thetiffy.com. Well, Larry, the last time we were talking before we went on commercial break, you were talking about a little experience with Vietnam. Go ahead and tell us what you experienced.
Well, like I said, I was a field radio repairman, but I was stationed in Saigon with MACV Study and Observation Group,
Yes.
which was a joint services outfit that we had every branch of the service in there. And of course, we had a lot of Green Berets and Navy SEALs, a lot of militia,
A lot of good Americans.
A lot of good Americans, and a lot of them were on the ground. And it was my responsibility to keep the radios going. So I went to a lot of base camps all over Vietnam working on radios. What I couldn't fix on the field, like the ones with bullet holes through them, I brought back with me. And when I got done with them, we would put them on a plane and take them back. But a couple of places, I spent New Year's Eve, 1969 to 70. I spent New Year's Eve in Da Nang. And like I said, and I spent some time in a base camp called Kontum, which was where the mountain yards was at. And anybody that knows anything about Vietnam know who the mountain yards were. They were really hard fighting mountain men that fought for Vietnam.
Yeah.
And the radio officer in charge was actually a first sergeant, and he liked to build antennas, but he didn't like to talk on the radio. So he couldn't test them.
Yeah.
So he found out I was a ham radio operator, and he asked me if I wanted to try out these antennas, and I said yeah. And I sent out a CQ call and got a hold of a guy in California, one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. And I asked him, would you put a call through for me to my wife? He said, just call my parents. She lives close, and tell them I'll call back in an hour. And he did. And about an hour, he calls me back, and he said, I got your wife on the phone. And we talked for about 20 minutes. And this was about 3 days before Christmas.
Yeah.
So we got to do that. Well, it's a base camp. A lot of people found out that we'd done this.
Mm-hmm.
The day before Christmas that year, I put through 17 phone calls through this guy in California to guys getting to call their family at home. That was as a ham radio operator, that was a good moment for me.
That's amazing.
It may not be as big as some hams have done, but to me, it was a big deal.
I'm sorry, but that's a big deal because you got because what if something happened to one of those 17 men?
Yeah.
You know, what if tomorrow, the next day, one of them got sniped, or one of them stepped on a mine, or one of them, had an IED.
Yeah.
So you did something good.
Well, it was it felt good.
Well, now the people at Johnson County know technically you're kind of a hero.
Yeah.
You don't think so, but people like me who are diehard pro-American, men or appreciate men like you, because every little job at the military is not small. Every little job means something. It doesn't matter if you're a quartermaster doing laundry or doing things for the soldiers or doing radio repair. Every job is important, regardless of how small you think it is.
One of the things that like I said, I was in a joint services outfit at MACV SOG, and we had a weather station. We had our own photography lab. We had our own communications. And one of the things that they did was when these pilots would fly over and take pictures of the surrounding territory, we had these analysts at the top would go through these pictures, and I didn't get to get mixed with them much, but I did know what they were doing. I did some work for the guy in the photography lab, and he was so happy he provided me with film for the rest of my stay in Vietnam. And but anyway, I said that to say this: we got married. My wife and I go on a lot of cruises.
You did mention that.
Yeah, we go on a lot of cruises.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it.
If you can afford it, take it.
That's
It's
what
fun.
we do. Yeah, especially since we retired. You know, and
I thought that was the rule when you retired. Cruises
do
is
something. It might be. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, on the cruises, the last 3 or 4 years, they started having veterans meetings, and in these veterans meetings, I have met a lot of guys that were in Vietnam. You know, a few not, but a lot of them were in Vietnam. I ran into a guy one day that talked about, well, I was TDY. You know what TDY is? I was TDY in Vietnam for 3 months. I said, oh, really? I said, what'd you do? He said, I took pictures of terrain. I flew over the terrain and took pictures. And then I took them into Saigon and took them up to MACV headquarters, and they analyzed them for me. And I said, and when were you there? He said I was there in, I think he said around Thanksgiving of '69. I said,
wait a minute.
I was there. We run into each other in the hallway.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's good to meet guys like that.
Yeah, share the same experiences of being deployed to a combat zone like that.
Yeah. And I was my best friend all through school. He and I have been best friends since 4th grade, or since we was 4 years old.
That's only a few years ago.
It's just a couple of years ago.
That wasn't many.
Yeah. But he and I were in Vietnam at the same time, but he was in infantry.
Yeah.
And we were writing letters back and forth, and all of a sudden I didn't get more letters. And I wrote my wife. She said, well, Donnie, he got hurt pretty bad. And I got a hold of him, and he had been hurt pretty bad, and he's been on disability since 1969.
Yeah.
But before he got hurt, he won a Silver Star for bravery.
That's fantastic.
He pulled a guy that was under fire. He pulled him out of harm's way. And he said, Larry, I didn't think nothing about it. The guy was in trouble. Yeah. I was there, you know, and that was what was happening in Vietnam at that time. And that's where guys were risking their lives to save their comrades.
Yeah.
And you never knew whether somebody in the foxhole next to you was going to be there 10 minutes from now or 10 days from now. You know, I had a brother-in-law. He passed. He was over there, and he was 18 years old when he went over. Wasn't afraid of nothing. And he performed. He did his country well. He served well. I have another brother-in-law that was over there when I was, you know, and he was in the infantry. He got through okay.
What's his name?
Daryl Clayton. He passed like 2 years ago, I guess. But anyway, it's you know, I've got a lot of friends. My class, I told you, was small. We had 37 in my graduating class, 22 men and 15 women.
Oh my goodness! How do you remember that?
I looked it up in the yearbook.
Oh, nice. Because I mean, I'm not saying you have a couple of years on you, and you can remember these numbers and dates. You're pretty good with it.
I remember a lot about my high school because it was 37. I always remember that because we had one of the largest classes at that time.
Yes.
And I remember a lot of the people there. I can name probably most of the people that were in the class, but I went through and counted. We had 22 men, and 6 of them either went to Nam or were in the service during the Vietnam period.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And we didn't have any of them all of them made it back. Some of them not as good as others.
Yeah.
Mary had a cousin, had his ear shot off, you know, and my friend got hurt real bad. And but it was the guys that were on the ground.
You're appreciative.
I so appreciate it because
I'm the same way. I'm the same way about Vietnam vets, World War II veterans. Like sometimes I get emotional thinking about what the men and women have done for this country. And then you see this newer generation and the way they're just treating and beating these young, at the time they were young.
Yeah. Well,
But
there's
they've been through things. They've been through things, and there's no respect for them.
There's no respect, and that's because they haven't been through these things.
Yeah.
I got a brother-in-law that he and I are good friends, and he was in the National Guard. I got a lot of brother-in-laws who are in the National Guard.
It's not David, is it?
Yeah.
David Clayton.
Yeah.
Speaking of David Clayton,
He's on there.
He's on there. He said, "That's my brother-in-law. He's very proud of you, and wish he can catch a fish with you."
Oh, there you go. I'm going to tell you a story about David.
Okay, let's go. Hey, David, here's your story.
Here's your story, David. He was in the National Guard for, I don't know, maybe 15, 16 years.
Wow.
And he got out. Well, his son came up at 17 years old, and he wanted to get in the National Guard.
Nothing wrong with that.
So he got in the National Guard. Well, David rejoins. He re-ups.
Wow.
Okay. They're there about a year. Everything's going good. And the whole outfit gets sent to where's
Iraq, Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak to the microphone right there.
Oh,
there you
anyway,
go. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he was overseas. Him and his son both went over. We're both over there for
At
a
the
year.
same time.
And they slept the same, bunks sitting next to everybody.
That's incredible.
One of them was in the daytime and one of them was at nighttime.
Oh my gosh. So they kept flipping. Oh,
yeah.
nice. That's
But
great.
The reason he's talking about fishing was a few weeks ago, he called me and says, "Hey, got a guy up here that does a thing for vets, disabled vets." We went up to I went up to Arkansas and we went trout fishing. 2 days guided fishing. They cooked their fish on the bank.
Oh, nice.
They cooked the steaks at night. We had a great time.
Oh, nice.
That's what we want to do again, but
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, not at all. But anyway, yeah. And David is, like I said, right now he's the youngest brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And he and I are good friends, and we contact each other a lot. In fact, me and him and his wife and Mary went to Niagara Falls last October, and I give him the privilege of driving about 90% of the way. Yeah. So I was glad he went.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right, Larry, I want to ask you some questions. Some of them might hit you at the heart a little bit,
Okay.
and some of them might not. And let's do our best to answer these as truthfully and as honestly as you can. Okay. If later on, a few years from now, this radio show was broadcast and somebody's watching this video, and you wanted to tell them about your wife, what would you say to this person about your wife, what she's been to you and what she's meant to your children, what she's meant to your grandkids?
Well, I'll tell you that she would pick up and go with me anywhere, anytime. If I wanted to move to Alaska tomorrow, she would go with me.
That's fantastic.
It's been like that all married. She's always going with me. She's always supported me in anything I did. And I support her in anything she does. She is a great cook. When we got married, I weighed 130 pounds. Look at me now.
It just means you're happy. Eating. It just means you're happy.
Well, I like to try out everything she cooks. And she loves the grandkids. The grandkids are, well, they don't always come in front of me, but sometimes they come in front of me, and that's okay. Because I love those grandkids, and she does, and we like to have them around as much as we can.
Yeah.
And so, but like I said, we like to go on cruises, and she likes the cruises as much as I do. In fact, I was sitting there last night, or night before last, and she said, a few years back, we took a cruise from San Diego to Hawaii and back in 15 days.
Oh my gosh.
She said, "I'm ready to do that again." I said, "Well, let me see what we got." So, and I told her the other day, I said, I'm always the one coming up with the trips. Where do you want to go? She said, "I want to go see the tulips." So I got on and I got to looking, and a little bit out of our price range to go over there. But we found a place in Iowa that does the same thing.
Oh, nice.
So we're going up there 1st of May.
That's great.
Yeah. And, but she's, she, like I say, she loves to cook. She likes to cross stitch. She likes to read. We just,
That's some
we're
really
best
sweet.
friends.
That's some really sweet things about
Yeah.
your wife.
We're best friends. And not that we don't argue, but you know.
So the way you're
keeps it
talking, I
interesting.
could totally see her. Hopefully it won't come for another 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
Larry, but I could see her being by your side.
Oh yeah. Well,
when you know, basically in the last moments of my life or your life, I could see somebody like her
Well,
being beside you.
let me tell you just what she is. It'll be 3 years ago in March, in 2020, in January, and in March, I had stem cell transplant because I've got, you know, multiple myeloma, and I had a stem cell transplant. It went great, but 2 days later, because they killed my immune system, I got shingles, and the medicine they give me shut my kidneys down, shut me down. I was in a coma for 7 days.
Oh my goodness.
I was in San Antonio. They called me. You know, she was there by my side as much as they let her be. And they told her to call the family in. You know, we don't know if he's ever going to wake up. In 7 days, I woke up. The grace of God, he wasn't done with me, I guess, but he woke me up, and they told me I would probably be on a dialysis machine for the rest of my life in 3 days. I proved them wrong. They told me that I would probably lose my hands. I didn't lose them. I lost some function of them, but didn't lose them. But so, like I say, the grace of the Lord, give me these extra days, and I want to make the most of them.
Yeah.
And then that November, they put me on a ventilator for 10 days and told me they told her I might not wake up. And this was in Dallas, and she was driving back and forth to Dallas every day. It's just that kind of dedicated woman she is, you know. And I woke up. It took me 3 months to learn how to walk and swallow, but they sent me to a rehab center. And the day before Thanksgiving, I told them I'm going home. They said, we can't release you. I said, I'm going home. I'm going home. I've been in the hospital 3 months. I'm going home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So anyway, I called my sons, and they come and got me. And of course, like I said, I could walk a little bit, but I couldn't push myself around.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get me in the van. And one of them went on the driver's side and was going to pull me in, and I sat down on his head.
That's a nice little story to tell your grandkids.
Oh yeah, and we still laugh about that. But we were laughing so hard, and then he did that, and of course I couldn't get up.
Yeah.
And Bruce was trying to pull me up, and Jeff was trying to pull his head out. So anyway, we had a good laugh on that. But I, when I get home, I want to be home. It's always, and Mary takes care of me. And when she had her knee surgery, I took care of her.
Yeah.
So,
50,
it's just
50.
been,
50-50.
Yeah. And,
all right, Larry, another question. If a little kid is sitting in front of you and he asks you what it means to be a veteran and why it's important that people respect a veteran, what would you say to this little kid?
I would say that a veteran is someone who has left his family, left his home, and has put himself out there for the United States and is willing to do whatever he needs to do to protect this country and protect the rights of this country. And that is why he should be respected. And when he comes home, Vietnam, when I got home from Vietnam, they told us not to go out on the street alone.
Yeah, it was tough because there's a lot of people who hated that.
Yep. And they told us to always travel in groups.
Yeah.
And that's why for 30 years, I didn't let anybody know. I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
When I got to Texas, I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah,
I'd gone to Vietnam.
That's good.
But
I
20
could
years ago,
see
that changed.
somebody doing that for the sake of not being, tormented.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you used to go to concerts and stuff, and they would have veterans stand up, and they would mention every war but the Vietnam War.
Yeah. It's the forgotten veteran. Just because, yes, because they're basing certain people on the whole military.
Yeah.
Because some people do some bad acts, all of a sudden it's the whole military.
Yeah. And, I told you that when I went in, they were the military, the protesters, and the draft dodgers.
Yeah.
And the protesters were protesting the government when I went in.
Yeah.
When I got back in Vietnam, the government wasn't listening to them, so they turned on the veterans. And it was their fault then that they were fighting a war. And so that was, that's just one reason. There was no respect there for many, many, many years. And that's why now I wear the hat. And when I see somebody, I say, welcome home and thank you for your service.
That's how we met.
Yeah.
You were at our place restaurant.
Yep.
I saw you wearing the hat that says you were a veteran.
Yep.
And I just went up to you and asked you, hey, do you live in Johnson County? Because I interviewed Johnson County managers. You're like, as a matter of fact, I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we exchanged information, and here you are a couple of weeks later. And I appreciate you because now people know who you are.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. So before we got 3 minutes left on our show. What is the happiest day that you can recall in your whole entire couple of years?
The happiest day in the last
couple of years. No, it's a take. I know you're up there in age, but I just say a couple of years because I don't like to say people's ages. But what would you say is the happiest time in your life that you can recall?
Well, of course, getting married, having the two kids, seeing their kids born, and seeing their kids' born. Those are happy moments for me.
There is. What is your ultimate happiness?
The ultimate moment of happiness.
Yes.
Probably waking up from that coma
and seeing your wife next to you.
Well, I didn't see. Guess who I saw next to me?
Who's that?
David.
Oh, nice.
Yep. He had driven down from Arkansas.
That's fantastic.
And he was switching off with Mary. And when I woke up, I looked over and I saw him, and I said, I want to see Mary.
Yeah.
And he said, we'll go get her. And but like I said, I woke up and it was David sitting there.
Nice. So, okay, now that we know you're the happiest day in your life, which is waking up from your coma, what would you say is probably the worst day in your life?
The day I left for Vietnam.
Is it because of your wife? I was going to say
7.5 months pregnant.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
I tell you, that's you don't get
you still think about it.
I still think about it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's it's actually, I'm getting kind of tugged at the heartstrings here a little bit because it makes me think about when I was in the service.
And I'm sure every guy that went to Vietnam, there was such an unknown of what was going to happen when you got there.
Yeah.
And would you know who you were fighting? Because you never knew day to day who you were fighting, It's
true.
My brother-in-law, they had a human wave attack one night, and they went out the next morning and they pulled a bunch of bodies off his Constantine bar, and his barber was one of the guys they pulled off.
Oh.
So the guy was a barber in the daytime and a terrorist at night,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I heard about that. I've heard of stories like that where they would be friends with you during the daytime. They would make it seem like but they were two-faced.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They would secretly. Yeah. Well, they had people like that in Iraq and Afghanistan as well.
Yeah. Making a living. They're making a living, but they're not changing their politics.
Oh, nice. Okay, so what would you like to tell the next generation of folks? I guess you could call them veterans, combat veterans, people that are a soldier like us. If I come up to you and I have an issue, I'm feeling depressed or I feel like I'm suicidal. Right. What can you do to say to me to make me feel better about myself?
Well, I would tell them a story about me waking up from the coma and thanking the good Lord that he gave me some more life. And you got to thank him every day. When you wake up, you thank him every day for that, getting you through the night and what you got going the next day. He's got a plan for you. And he has a plan for me. I'm not really sure what it is yet. Maybe it's this show. I don't know.
Maybe that's what it is.
But he gave me a plan. He had a plan for me, and he woke me up. And any veteran out there, God's going to wake you up every morning with a plan.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Angelo Rocha. This is Vet for Vets, and my guest has been the fantastic Larry Rasberry. Larry, thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you for inviting me.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
At Romika Designs, we're